Commander Naomi Carter adjusted her crisp U.S. Navy uniform, her shoulders squared despite the exhaustion weighing her down. She had just completed a 6-month deployment at sea, overseeing high-risk rescue operations and leading disaster relief efforts in the Pacific. The mission had been grueling. Long days, short nights, and no luxuries. Now, she was finally headed home to Washington, D.C., for much-needed rest and to reunite with her family. The hum of JFK International Airport surrounded her as she walked toward Gate B-14, her boarding pass clutched in her hand. Thanks to her loyalty program, she had received an upgrade to first class, a small but well-deserved comfort after months of service. She let out a quiet breath, allowing herself to savor the moment. A comfortable seat, a hot meal. Just a few hours of peace before home. But Naomi had no idea that her journey was far from over, and this flight would become a battle of its own. As Naomi approached the priority boarding line, a tall blonde flight attendant, Chloe Adams, watched her with narrowed eyes. Her smile was polite, but Naomi could see the doubt behind it. As Naomi handed over her boarding pass, Chloe barely glanced at it before saying, "Ma'am, this line is for first-class passengers." Naomi blinked. "I know." Chloe gave her a tight smile, one that didn't quite reach her eyes. "First-class boarding is for premium ticket holders only. Economy is boarding soon. The line is over there." She gestured toward the long queue snaking through the terminal. Naomi felt the heat rise in her chest but kept her face neutral. "I have a first-class ticket." She held it up for Chloe to see. Chloe's eyes flicked down, and for a split second, Naomi caught the hesitation. The moment of surprise that said, "She didn't expect this." The attendant forced a chuckle. "There must be some mistake. Let me double-check." Naomi exhaled slowly as Chloe took the ticket and typed something into the computer. The seconds stretched and she could feel the weight of passengers' stares. A man in a gray business suit behind her muttered to his companion, "Probably an error. She must have been given the wrong seat." Naomi clenched her jaw. She had been here too many times before. Doubt, assumptions, the quiet disbelief that she belonged in certain spaces. Finally, Chloe's brows furrowed. "Well," she said, "it appears this ticket is correct. But—" She trailed off, looking Naomi up and down. "Are you sure you can afford first class?" The words landed like a slap. Naomi's fingers tightened around the strap of her duffel bag. She had fought hurricanes, saved lives at sea, and led teams into danger zones. And yet, here she was, being questioned over a plane seat. She squared her shoulders. "I didn't buy this ticket," she said, her voice calm but firm. Chloe smirked. "Oh, then how did you get it?" Naomi let the silence stretch before answering. "I earned it." The tension in the air thickened. Chloe hesitated, then forced another smile. "I'm sorry, but I'll need you to step aside while we sort this out." A murmur rippled through the crowd. Naomi heard whispers. "Maybe she's trying to sneak in." "She's probably lying. They don't usually upgrade people like her." A woman in pearls and designer shoes rolled her eyes. Typical. Naomi felt a sharp sting, but she refused to let it show. Then Chloe reached for Naomi's boarding pass and tore it in half. Gasps echoed around them. "You'll have to fly economy," Chloe said, "or find another flight." For a moment, Naomi stood frozen. Then, very slowly, she set her bag down. Enough. She had spent years proving herself in spaces where she wasn't wanted. She had faced doubt, hostility, and prejudice before. But this was going to be a lesson they wouldn't forget. Naomi turned toward the cockpit, ignoring Chloe's protests. Just as she reached the door, it swung open, revealing Captain Daniel Reeves, a tall man in his late 50s with graying hair. "What's going on here?" he asked, frowning. Chloe rushed to his side. "Captain, we have a problem. This passenger is refusing to leave first class." Naomi met his gaze, her expression unreadable. "Captain," she said, her voice steady. "Before we continue, I think you should know my rank." The captain raised an eyebrow. Naomi reached into her jacket and pulled out her military ID. "Commander Naomi Carter, United States Navy. I have served this country for over 20 years. I just returned from deployment, and I have a first-class ticket." A sharp silence fell over the gate. The businessman who had whispered earlier turned pale. The pearl-wearing woman shifted uncomfortably. Chloe's face drained of color. Captain Reeves took the ID, scanned it, and his expression immediately changed. "Commander," he said, standing a little straighter, "I apologize for this treatment. You should have been seated without question." Naomi held his gaze. "I agree." He turned to Chloe, his voice cold. "You destroyed her boarding pass?" Chloe stammered. I didn't know." "That doesn't matter. You assumed, and you humiliated a decorated officer in front of a full flight." Chloe swallowed hard. The crowd was completely silent now. Captain Reeves reached into his pocket, pulled out his own pen, and wrote a new boarding pass by hand. Then he handed it to Naomi personally. "Welcome aboard, Commander Carter. Let me escort you to your seat myself." As Naomi walked past the first-class passengers, the shift in energy was undeniable. The whispers had vanished. The man in the business suit avoided her gaze. The woman in pearls looked away, embarrassed. Naomi took her seat by the window, finally letting out a slow breath. Captain Reeves turned to the cabin. "Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to take a moment to recognize Commander Carter for her service. It's because of people like her that we have the freedom to travel safely." A few passengers clapped hesitantly. Then, one by one, the applause grew louder. Naomi wasn't sure if it was genuine or if they were ashamed. Either way, she didn't need their validation. She simply nodded, accepting the captain's gesture, then turned to look out the window. A few minutes later, the seat next to her was filled by Captain Reeves. "Commander," he said softly, "this isn't the first time this has happened. Is it?" Naomi smiled faintly. "No, Captain, it isn't." He sighed. "And I'm guessing it won't be the last." She turned to face him, her eyes calm but firm. "Not unless people start learning." The captain gave a slow nod. "Then let's make sure they do." The engines roared to life, and as the plane lifted off, Naomi finally allowed herself to relax. Because today, she hadn't just claimed her seat, she had claimed her place, and the world was watching.